Caitlin and welcome to another video. Today I am here with my friend Remy.
Hi.
Also known as Veggiekins on Instagram. Today Remy is going to be teaching us how to make some yummy recipes.
We're gonna make miso soup, which is a very traditional and classic Japanese dish. It's actually really easy to prepare, but I'll walk you through some of the steps and give you a couple tips to make it your best miso soup. And also vegan, because it's not also always
That's
vegan.
true, yeah. Honestly, I've only really had miso soup like out at a restaurant or from like the instant packet, which is kind of embarrassing. So I'm excited to learn how to make it the proper way.
Yeah, it's actually really easy. It's delicious and it's also probiotic, so it's good for your gut and all of that goodness.
Okay, well, let's get into it. So first, what do we need to do?
Okay, we're gonna start with boiling some water, and that's like really the main step. So we're gonna make a stock using this seaweed. This is kombu, and it kind of looks like a large sheet. And this has like a really savory flavor, and it's a replacement for fish stock, which is usually used like dashi. So yeah, it looks like this. Seaweed looks a little creepy, but yeah, it is basically the stuff from the ocean.
It's crazy how much it expands because kombu is like usually dried and smaller. I remember the first time I rehydrated kombu, I was like, whoa!
And it's a little slimy because it is seaweed, so don't be off put by that. But we're basically gonna add that to the pot with some water. So we're gonna cover that and let it boil, and then while that's cooking, we can start prepping the veggies. So we're gonna use a couple of mushrooms. Mushrooms are really great to put in miso soup. It's pretty traditional to use enoki mushrooms, which are these fun ones. They look like straws. And then these are shimeji mushrooms, which are also really fun shape. I think they're really beautiful. And for garnish, we have some spring onions. Then we're also gonna use a different kind of seaweed, wakame, and it's like smaller chunks basically, and it's a little bit thinner, so it's not as tough. And yeah, it's also rehydrated. We started with about this much, and now it's like so much. This is like, you know those foam animal pills you put in water and like the dinosaur gets really big?
Yeah.
Okay, so we have our water boiling, and we're gonna prep the veggies. We're gonna start with the enoki mushrooms, which are these straw-like mushrooms. And I like to cut them into pretty big chunks to keep them kind of meaty because they are very small and stringy. Just make sure you cut off this bottom part, the mushroom butt.
The mushroom butt.
Kind of like that. Good
Okay.
size. You can make them as big or as small as you want. Same goes for these mushrooms, just make sure you cut off the bottoms here.
So does traditional miso soup have mushrooms in it as well, or do you like to add them?
I would say mushrooms and tofu and seaweed wakame are pretty traditional actually.
Okay.
There's usually no meat in it. Sometimes there'll be like a little bit of chicken, but the standard I would say is like actually vegetarian, except for the fish stock.
the fish stock?
Yeah,
Okay.
so it's pretty easy actually. Most of the time, like when you go to restaurants, it's usually just scallions, mushrooms, and seaweed and tofu.
I think like the instant pack, it's like super dehydrated tofu and like a few random stray pieces of seaweed.
The magic tofu.
Yeah, and like a really powdery broth.
So I'm actually gonna, I think, put these mushrooms into the pot early while this is boiling too, because mushrooms have such great umami flavor, which is hard sometimes to get when you're not cooking with animal products.
Yeah.
And then we're also gonna prep our tofu, which I think is fun and a really easy way to get in some plant protein too. So silken tofu is like the most traditional. It totally doesn't matter, whatever tofu you like the best, but I feel like this is more traditional. It's very like soft.
Yeah.
So I like to cut it in here and I just strain off the water.
Yeah, that would definitely be easier for silken tofu because I feel like after you transfer it to a cutting board and stuff, it starts to fall apart.
Yeah, once you pick it up, it's like, oh gosh.
You're
So
good.
we can just score it in the container, which I feel like is easier. Saves you some dishes maybe. And we'll just let it sit here until the rest is done. So now that the water is boiling, we can either leave the kombu in. Some people like to eat it, some people don't. It's got like more of a chewy texture than your average seaweed. We'll take it out for now. And then optional, you can add veggie broth if you like, kind of like to substitute the dashi or the fish stock that's usually used. This is just a veggie stock broth. It's actually made from mushrooms. The great thing is mushrooms don't take a long time to cook, so you just need to make sure that they're cooked through, and then you're kind of good to go. So after that, you just turn the heat off completely before you add in the miso. It's actually better if you can to wait until it's a little bit cooler than boiling because it kills off the probiotics. But if you're just eating it for flavor, it totally doesn't matter. I just like to kind of stir it in at the end. If the heat is too high, it'll kill off some of the good bacteria in miso. And if you're allergic to soy, you can use chickpea miso. I know they have brown rice miso. There's all kinds of miso. I just like to use the organic soy miso because I don't have an allergy.
And there's different types of miso too, right? There's like red miso, yellow miso. So
red miso, white miso, there are all kinds. This one I would say is like an in-between. It's kind of like a rainbow, and there's like a gradient of like how white and red. I like to get the reduced sodium one because it is pretty salty naturally. You can just add as much or as little as you want. So we're kind of gonna eyeball it and go by taste. And you could definitely measure this out. We'll put like measurements in the actual recipe for you guys, but it's better to go by taste because I think everyone has a different preference in terms of how salty they like things. So I would say start with less, and then you can always add more later and just taste and see how you like it. So this is how I would recommend doing it. Instead of plopping in all the miso, to put it in a spoon like this, take your chopsticks, add a little bit of water, and start working it in so that it dissolves slowly.
Oh.
Otherwise, sometimes you end up with clumps on the bottom, and it is a pretty thick paste. So you could also put this in a bowl with a little bit of water and mix it there first, whatever you want to do.
But the pros do it over the pot.
At least my mom does. So this is looking a little bit light, and we're gonna add a little bit more miso, and then we're also gonna add in the seaweed.
Is this to taste as well?
This is kind of like for texture. I feel like this seaweed doesn't have as much flavor on its own.
Okay.
So you can add just a little bit or a lot if you like seaweed, and that'll basically be it. I like to add the tofu in just at the very end too, just so that it's heated through in the same temperature, but it doesn't really need much cooking because it's kind of already cooked on its own.
Yeah.
So this recipe is pretty foolproof. There's not a lot of room for error. I don't think you need to add too much tofu. It's kind of more of like a little filling, but it's totally up to you. You can add as much or as little as you like. A little bit of spring onion. And that's pretty much it.
We're gonna try the kombu.
It looks like a fruit leather, doesn't it?
It actually does. Smells like the ocean.
Yeah, it does.
It's like what you would think it is. It's seaweed. I like that texture though.
It's fun,
Sometimes
right?
I'm not a fan of seaweed because I honestly don't like things that taste like overly fishy. But this one isn't bad. Actually, I like it. Okay, we have our adorable little soup bowls.
The best part.
It definitely tastes a lot more fresh than instant miso soup. And I like how the recipe's super customizable too. Like if you want to make it saltier, you can add more, or less water, you can add more or less seaweed, you can add more tofu.
Switch up the veggies if you like. Like some people put okra in it, which looks really nice. But it's totally up to you. You can try with like so many different misos.
I like the silken tofu in it too.
Yeah, I think it's a lot smoother, so you don't have to like chew it since it is a soup.
Yeah, it kind of like melts in your mouth.
Yeah, but if you like texture, go for it.
Or the firmer tofu. It would definitely be different though, because traditionally it's silken tofu, right? Okay.
And a lot of, like if you eat this in Japan, sometimes they won't give you a spoon because you just drink out of the bowl. So you just drink from the bowl. But this has like a lot of stuff in it, so I feel like it's better to eat with a spoon. Yeah.
So actually, can you tell everyone who isn't familiar with your channel about like how you grew up? Because I feel like you traveled a lot and everything.
Yeah.
You have a really interesting story.
It's a complicated story. So I am Korean, Japanese, and Taiwanese. I was born in New York City, and then my family moved overseas, but not to Korea or Japan. So we moved to Taiwan for about 10 years, and then we moved to Shanghai. So we lived in Asia for most of my life, but it was an interesting, I guess, environment because the school that I went to was also international. So it's not like everyone was Chinese or local to China. They were all from like different parts of the world. So kind of like UN school, I guess, or like boarding school. And then I came back to the US for college. So I'm here now. They're still doing their thing. They're out there.
That's cool. It's like you have family all over the world. But do you feel like even though you traveled around a lot and like you lived in China, did your parents still cook like traditionally Japanese foods, or did you sort of have a fusion of everything?
It's interesting.
Growing up.
Like my parents are actually pretty American.
Okay.
Like, our family's like very American. Like we speak all English. And then they grew up here too. But because we moved out there, I think we connected a little bit more again with, you know, the cultural food because it was so much easier to get.
True.
And now when they come back, they said they feel like they eat such Asian food and they're not used to like seeing pizza and everything again.
Oh, really?
So it's kind of funny. But I would say like somewhere in the middle, which is how I like to cook too, like kind of Western with like a little bit of miso or like this and that. And I would say that's like my favorite kind.
Yeah, miso's really great in like recipes. I feel like it's an overlooked ingredient. When I first started cooking, I was like, I don't really want to use it. It's complicated, but it adds like, a great depth of flavor.
It's so savory.
To recipes. Like even in sweet recipes, I like to make salted caramel using miso because it adds that like
I love
it's hard to describe it, like umami type flavor.
It's like when you add a little salt to your dessert.
Yes, but better. So you also have another treat I think you got for us to taste test.
This is mochi, and it's like freshly made mochi, so you don't have to cook it or anything like that. It's basically just rice cake, and they cover it in this flour, which is similar to peanut, I think. It's actually soybean flour. It's called pinako. If you guys like bubble tea, it's like that similar chewy texture because it's rice flour, and it tastes like peanuts to me. Cheers. Cheers.
Well, I like it. It does taste like it has a peanutty flavor to it, for sure. And the mochi itself, I like how it's just, so when would you typically eat this? Is it like a sweet food or a dessert or like?
Kind of like a dessert or a snack.
I like that it's not too sweet.
Yeah.
Because there are some that are sweeter.
I think there's like ice cream mochi
Mm-hmm.
and stuff like that, but I feel like Asian desserts are typically less sweet, which is really great if you don't like super sweet stuff.
Mm-hmm.
And my sister's actually allergic to peanuts, and she really likes this because it's similar, but it's peanut free. So
yeah, I like it. I don't like super sweet desserts, and I kind of like saltier desserts too. And I like the texture of the mochi. It's like nice and gummy. I've had ice cream stuffed mochi, but I actually like it like when it's thicker and I get more of the texture. Well, thank you, Remy, for coming along and showing us all how to make miso soup. Now that I know how easy it is, I'm definitely going to be making it at home myself.
yeah, and we'll put a recipe with actual measurements on Caitlin's blog so you can find it there.
The full recipe will be linked below, as well as recipe links to Remy's website, all of her stuff. She makes really good vegan recipes, and I feel like we cook very similarly too. So if you like my content, she's a lot of like gluten-free, oil-free, refined sugar-free recipes too.
Healthy but
go ahead and
delicious,
check it out.
right?
Exactly. All right, so thanks for coming along, and I will see you guys in the next video.
Bye.
Bye.